Hello everybody and welcome back to the vlog. I wanted to talk to you about the notion of revisiting regular haunts, and one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because it's become more and more of an issue for us over the last 12 months that getting out and about has been much more difficult. So local areas, places where you can get to fairly easily, which I've been doing, are probably the best places to go and revisit regularly. But one of the things that I've discovered about this idea of revisiting is, particularly with landscape photography, it's a natural landscape that you're going into all the time, and I'm finding that it's regularly changing. The light changes, the atmosphere changes, the actual locations alter whilst you're going backwards and forwards to them on regular occasions. And what you find is that you can often end up discovering things that you've never ever seen before, and that's what's been happening for me recently. So I'm constantly backwards and forwards to the same spots to try and get different images, and that's what I'm doing today. So come along with me. So I've walked along this brook several times in the last few months, and each time I come back I seem to spot something slightly different. I was here about a week ago. I didn't shoot any footage of this, but I did spot a couple of new and interesting images that I wanted to take. One of the things that I've noticed about this particular brook is that along the banking, just at the edge there, I've noticed that there are one or two spots where the banking itself seems to form kind of a plateau or a platform just at the edge of the brook. And I tried to stand on one of these a couple of weeks ago, and it seemed to take my weight okay. So I'm going to try and get an interesting composition of one of the trees on the banking of this brook just along here. Hopefully it will look good, but it means standing on one of those platforms which have been formed by the banking itself, and I get the impression that when the water level rises it could become very boggy. So I don't know how I'm going to be able to capture this shot, or if I'm going to be able to capture this shot at all, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. It's just a few yards along here. As you can see, I am now standing on that banking at the edge of the towpath, and actually on the very side of the brook itself. There are a clump of trees just behind me that I want to photograph, and I don't know how long I can stand here because the ground is quite soft and a bit mushy, so I'm going to have to try and set up my tripod and get a quick shot here and then try and move on and capture something else. So I'm using the trees just behind me and this kind of bed of weeds that I'm sort of standing on as focal points within the image. The bed of weeds that I'm standing on just here are kind of at the base of the image, like the very front, and the trees themselves are a little bit further back. But I've found that there are, should I say, that clump of trees behind me, and then just ahead of that there is also another tree that comes up just here that I'm looking at, and I'm focusing on those three main areas of the image because I want to try and capture those things in sharp focus. So it's going to be a focus stack, but also I'm not sure whether to shoot with a landscape orientation or a portrait orientation. So I've taken two shots of that now, and I'm going to move on and see if I can find something else. So I literally walked about 20 yards just beyond that small cluster of trees, still on that same section of banking, that little platform that was jutting out into the brook itself, and just ahead of there was another small cluster of trees. So I've taken pretty much exactly the same composition for those trees as well. Now in this case I didn't need to consider using a portrait orientation because the crop was so much tighter anyway. It was a much smaller space to be standing in. So what I did was actually take a landscape shot of that one, which I think is probably a little bit better, and in this case I also wanted to use the brook as a leading line from the bottom right hand corner of the image, leading the eye in towards the centre of the image where the trees stood. And that's that. Hope you like those two images. I'm going to move on and see if I can find something else to shoot now. I've been considering trying to enter the Landscape Photographer of the Year competition this year, and I don't fully know what's involved in the application process, so I'm going to spend some time doing my research later today and having a look into that and see if I can get some images together ready to send off for that competition. That could be interesting. For now I've found another little composition here just behind me, just over my shoulder here. There's a path that runs off the towpath at the side of the brook, and it runs off to another path in a park next to the brook itself. And the composition I've found here is just at the edge of that path. As you cut through from the towpath, just there's a little cut in there, and I'm standing just inside the park and looking through that cut-in towards that tree on the opposite side of the brook. I don't know whether it works, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. I've walked several hundred yards along the path where I was previously, and I've come across a little, almost a cutting at the side of the path, and what I've discovered here there are several trees. There's that one behind me there, that one behind me there, that one there, and as I spin round further there's that one there, and I thought it'd be a nice little spot to set up the camera set up the tripod away from the path itself and try and capture a few images of these little trees here. That could be quite interesting. That is it for this vlog then, folks. Hope you've enjoyed watching. I'm just going to go home now and get myself a nice warm cup of tea, as it's freezing today. Surprisingly so after the last couple of days that we've had when it's been beautiful. But I'm heading home now to get a cup of tea. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next vlog very soon. Bye for now.